Hey guys, it's Malcolm from Automotive Addicts, and today I'm going to be switching it up a little bit, doing things a little different with the format of my videos, but I am bringing you new cars, and this one is the 2020 Ford Explorer ST. Now the ST is the top of the line version of the Explorer. It's more of a sporty trim. It does have 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the three things I like about the car and one thing I don't like. But real quick, just do a quick walk around. Got 21-inch wheels. The Explorer is totally redesigned for the 2020 model year, of course. Got some interesting tailpipes back here too. The quad-tipped pipes. I don't know if you can see under there. There's actually that outlet comes at the bottom of the tip. But to start off with, one of the things that I like out of the three that I like about the 2020 Ford Explorer ST is its looks and overall presence on the road. From what you can see, it's a pretty big vehicle, 3-row crossover, of course. It is rear-wheel drive based now. It does have a presence on the road. You have this massive grille up front, these quad beam LED headlights with auto high beams, daytime running lights up top that also convert into an amber signal when you turn on the signal. We have this nice Explorer badge running across here up top, kind of Range Rover-ish. I think it looks pretty good. The ST adds a few different things. Of course, the black wheels. Got your red painted calipers. Got your ST badging across the vehicle. ST badging up front and in the back. And of course, with the ST, you get that more powerful engine, the 400 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque, the twin-turbo V6 engine. It's a 3.0 liter. All right, we're inside the 2020 Ford Explorer ST. We'll go ahead and start it up. Of course, what you'll notice right off the bat is this new infotainment system, which is a 10.1-inch portrait-style touchscreen. That brings me to the one thing that I dislike about the car is the electronics and them not being very cohesive, in my opinion. There are little traits about the vehicle that I don't like about the electronics, which the relays you hear constantly clicking on and off when you start up the vehicle, or actually when you open the door of the car. It's a weird thing. That doesn't give me much confidence in the car being a quality item as far as longevity, durability, when you hear your electronics constantly clicking on and off. Just in walking up to the vehicle and the vehicle detecting the key, you start hearing clicking noises. But enough about that. Let's focus on this screen. Now, the 2020 Explorer ST, you can have a 8-inch, normal landscape mounted touchscreen, but in upgrading, you get the 10.1-inch touchscreen, which is the new portrait style. And the weird thing about this is the information is just not fit on there as I kind of wanted it to. It's things like the rear view camera. If you hit get it in reverse, it is a 360-degree view camera, very clear, it's high definition, but the size of the display you have to work with, it'd be great if Ford actually extended like the rear view itself and put it on half of the screen, and maybe the 360-degree put it in the bottom. But unfortunately they didn't do that, and you're stuck with stuff like this. Now, apart from the touchscreen and its quirks, you have this 12.3-inch gauge cluster screen. By default, it pretty much looks like this upon startup of the vehicle. It's in normal drive mode. With the drive modes, it does change the view of the screen, but you can add a RPM gauge over here by going through the settings, which is kind of an odd RPM gauge. It's not a circle gauge. And you have your miles per hour here in the middle. Now, what takes up the middle when you enable the lane departure system or radar cruise control, you have this empty spot in the front, in the middle. But it does cleverly, change the vehicle when you approach a car and have a car that detects in front of you. It'll put a Ford Mustang if you're in sport mode. It'll put like a Ford Fusion in normal mode. And in towing mode or an off-road mode, it'll put a F-150 Raptor. And changing the drive mode down here to sport mode, you'll see the gauges change to something actually I prefer more versus the normal mode setup, which is having your miles per hour gauge on the left and your RPM gauge on the right. Now, moving back to the rest of the controls on the vehicle, you do have several physical climate control buttons here. You have your heated and ventilated seats up front and a heated steering wheel control. Got your camera button, of course, the quirky camera display once again, your parking distance indicator. Down here you have USB ports, a newer USB-C port, and a normal 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter. And here you have just a cigarette lighter adapter. And down here you have your wireless phone charger. You do have a rotary shift control, which is interesting about these electronic rotary shift controls. If you actually left it in drive and turn the vehicle off, it'll automatically put it in park. So I'll do a quick view of the interior. It's the second row. You have some climate controls down here. Second row bucket seats, captain's chairs. We're folding back to the third row. Third row is folded down right now. To fold the third row, you actually have to go in the back of the vehicle. Here in the back, you do have these folding buttons here for folding the third row seats. The third row seats are the only ones that are power folds. Unfortunately, the second row are not power folding. You do have some additional storage down here on the floor behind the third row. Power lift gate. And back to the third row. Manual sunshades. Alright, setting off in the 2020 Ford Explorer ST. Now, like I said before, the ST trim is a top-of-the-line version of the Explorer for the 2020 model year. You do have the Platinum trim, which is more of a softer vehicle than this. The other two things that I like about the car is the performance and the ride quality for it being a firm vehicle to fit the theme of being a more performance-oriented crossover, or SUV if you want to call it that. Ford has done pretty good to have this 3.0 liter twin turbo V6 EcoBoost, if you want to call it, in this particular vehicle. It shares the same drivetrain with the Lincoln Aviator. So the Ford Explorer ST, it comes all-wheel drive, and it's made it to a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's one of the units that are co-developed by General Motors and Ford. It's used in many cars now. The 10-speed automatic is pretty good. It's just pretty smooth. Overall drive quality of the car, which I happen to like. I like the firmness of the ride. It kind of reminds me of something like the BMW X5, believe it or not. One note for buyers of the Ford Explorer ST, they may want to drive the Platinum version first and this one second, just to see the difference in the suspension setup, because the ST is firmer. And also, because of that firmness, it feels more planted than the Platinum version of the Explorer. Not to mention, you do get a little bit of extra power in the ST. The Platinum version of the Explorer, you get the same engine and transmission, but it's slightly down on power. So getting back to the one thing that I dislike as far as the Explorer ST goes, the electronics, and of course this tablet style screen that's in a portrait orientation. Some people may like the portrait orientation of this screen, but like I said, it's funny how they fit certain things into this screen to fit in there. Just like the navigation screen, you know, in full screen it's actually kind of neat, but once you go back to the home screen and it shoves it up in the top, things just kind of don't fit like they should, in my opinion. Not to mention the amount of information they squeeze onto the screen, it just doesn't flow very well. They could have done a lot better in doing a slightly smaller screen and done, you know, the landscape orientation, which they have in the Lincoln Aviator. The Lincoln Aviator screen, being a 10+ inch screen, is actually a lot better than this setup. But getting back to what I like about the car, the performance and the firm ride quality of the vehicle. For such a big crossover, being a 3-row crossover that Explorer is, you know, rear-wheel drive bias now, I think Ford has elevated the Explorer and its capabilities. It's more sporty now overall, even in some of the lower trim models, having that, you know, rear-wheel drive being standard, or you get the all-wheel drive when the all-wheel drive is still rear-wheel drive biased. But What you'll notice, the steering rack is pretty quick, and the acceleration is really good. You have a decent amount of torque, that 415 foot-pounds of torque. It's very adequate for this vehicle. 0 to 60 is about 5 seconds-ish. The 0 to 60 times in this car vary from publication to publication, but what I'll do a quick 0 to 60 for you, as I always do. There isn't much turbo lag in this engine. There's just a hint of it right off the bat, you know, stomping the gas pedal, but we'll go ahead and just demonstrate that. And floored, it takes off, get that surge of torque, 40, 50, and 60. But the takeaway from the Ford Explorer ST is not a slouch at all. It's got adequate power. You actually got quite a bit of towing power. The Ford Explorer ST tows 5,600 pounds. As far as fuel consumption, you get 18 miles per gallon city, 24 miles per gallon highway, and 20 miles per gallon combined. Part of that performance that I like about the Explorer ST, all-wheel drive and accelerating out of the hole, and out on a turn. It's very quick, it's very assured. The vehicle feels very planted most times. So in moving to the Ford Explorer ST, you're looking at spending about $58,000 to $60,000 depending on your few option packages. There's only just a couple different option packages on the Ford Explorer ST. Of course, in getting this, you know, portrait 10.1 inch screen versus the standard 8-inch touchscreen. So that's my quick rundown for the new 2020 Ford Explorer ST. Make sure you smash the like button, come back often, subscribe, check out my other videos, and see what I have coming to you next week. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next one.